Call the Columbia County Board of Commissioners meeting to order on this March the 29th, 6 p.m. Ask Commissioner Malier to open us with an invocation.
Thank you. Bow your heads with me. Lord, thank you for this beautiful day and the rights we have to live in this country and to the right to assemble and to govern ourselves. Please be with us today as we go through this list of items to address. Some of these decisions are not easy, and please be with us to help us make our decisions in fairness and in truth. In your name we pray. Amen.
Stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, the republic, nation, God, indivisible.
Let the record show we have a full quorum of commissioners. Commissioners, you have two sets of meetings. The first one from the March 15th budget work session. Your packet, those minutes meet with your approval. I'll accept a motion to do so.
Motion to accept as presented.
Second.
Questions? All in favor, raise your right hand. You also have the minutes from the 15th. Same advice.
Motion to accept as presented, please.
Second.
Questions? All in favor, raise your right hand. Johnson, are we set on our agenda tonight?
I believe it's ready for your approval, Mr. Chairman.
We do have a couple of special recognitions that Commissioner Galius is going to present. The first one,
Yes.
declaring Columbia County a Hidden Heroes County. Someone here to receive the super.
Mrs. Anway, would you join me, please? Daughter Flora? Yes. Towards the end of last year, Ms. Anway reached out to Connie's staff in regards to Columbia County becoming a Hidden Heroes County. She is one of 5 fellows selected for the state of Georgia to represent the Elizabeth Dole Foundation. The Elizabeth Dole Foundation was founded in 2012 by Senator Elizabeth Dole and works to strengthen and empower America's 5.5 million military and veteran caregivers. These are the spouses, family members, and other loved ones who have put their lives indefinitely on hold to care for their wounded veterans and home. As a Hidden Heroes County, the goal is to raise awareness of caregivers, understand the challenges, and educate caregivers about the resources available by providing support through an engagement of connections. With an estimated 15,000 veterans, 7,000 disabled veterans, 10,000 caregivers, and 4,000 active and reservists in our community, Columbia County is proud to join the nearly 180 communities that have passed a resolution or proclamation pledging to support our military and veteran caregivers. This way, it was very nice to meet with you and to hear about your mission. One of Elizabeth Dole's mottos is, once you get there, reach back and grab some. Pull them up.
Absolutely.
So it is in the spirit of that. Do you have any?
I just want to say a special thank you. Proud to call Columbia County home. Wonderful place to live. Out and recognize the caregivers that are.
Thank you very much. I have your resolution here that compliments, and you have to endure a picture. God bless you.
Everyone for your.
God bless you, man.
Absolutely. We do have one more proclamation. Everybody's aware of the war in the Ukraine, but we have a sister city. Columbia County has a sister city in Poland. Been, gosh, for 20 years, Scott?
At least, yeah.
At any rate, it's a city where a lot of the refugees are going, and so we had a proclamation in support of that city, and Alice is going to read that as well.
Sure, this resolution is for the government and people of our sister city, Nowy Sącz, Poland. Whereas on June 18th, 2002, the Board of Commissioners declared Nowy Sącz, Poland, to be an official sister city of Columbia County. Whereas more than 1 million refugees have arrived in Poland from the nation of Ukraine since opening up its borders for all those fleeing, setting up reception points along the border, provide drinks and food to the refugees. Whereas the residents of Nowy Sącz have graciously welcomed refugees seeking safety from their neighbor, Ukraine, during this time of conflict. Whereas the acts of kindness shown to the refugees are recognized by people around the world and are consistent with the values of Columbia County government. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the Columbia County Board of Commissioners do hereby praise the citizens of Nowy Sącz and the entire nation of Poland in their efforts to support the people of Ukraine as they fight to maintain their freedom. Adopted this 29th day of March 2022.
We actually still have connections with some of the government officials over there, and we'll be sending them this proclamation. Commissioners, on to the consent agenda. Items on the agenda have been through the necessary committee and received the necessary votes to be placed on the agenda. So if they still meet with your approval, I'll accept a motion to approve all at once.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Are there any questions? All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries. Next, we have Commissioner Skinner with some unfinished business dealing with the Savannah River Academy, I believe.
Yes, sir. This is file RZ 220301. I make a motion to postpone RZ 220301 to the May 3rd meeting.
Second.
And we are still in the process of working this out with the school.
That's correct. That'll give us some time to continue to work through that process, see if we can come to a resolution for all parties.
Super. Any questions? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed? Motion carries. Proclamations. Commissioner Skinner, I believe you have the next one.
I do. It's item
Well, actually,
B1.
bear with me for a second. I'm jumping ahead of it. We have to approve the resolution that we just gave.
Yes,
Oh,
sir.
okay.
My bad.
I make a motion to approve resolution number 22-14.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor, raise your right hand. Thanks. I don't know what I'd have said if you'd voted it down.
Take it back.
That'll play well.
Okay, our next item is file RZ 220303. And I make a motion to approve the request for a major revision to the existing S1 zoning for tax map 031A, parcel 002, to add sales of motor coaches as an allowed use on the site, subject to the condition enumerated in the March 17th, 2022 Planning Commission report.
I second.
So previously, the commission allowed a temporary use authorization to allow motor coach sales at what you probably know as Horizon Coaches. This will allow it to remain permanent. They did come in and pull a business application, business license, an occupation tax in 2018. They have not had one since. They came back in to get it, which triggered this process. So this will allow a full-time motor coach sales at this site. It really will not change the character of the site. They've done it before. There's storage of motor coaches already at this site, so seems appropriate.
Questions? All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries. Still up.
Yes, sir. Next item, B2, it's file RZ 220305. I make a motion to approve the request for the major revision for tax map 069, parcel 097C, tax map 075, parcel 098, to revise the conceptual plan subject to the conditions enumerated in the March 17, 2022 Planning Commission report.
Second?
Second.
This is a conceptual plan revision. Patrice, if you'll go back one slide. This is the current layout, and you'll see, I guess the biggest thing I'm gonna point out is they're showing a farm in this location. Go to the next one. They've moved the farm down as a buffer between, neighborhood below them, Kingston Road there. This says we're gonna require a fence along Wrightsboro Road. That fence will have to be in the HOA property name, not individual properties. Buffers are gonna have to be supplemented as well, have to reach 6-foot height in 2 years growing seasons. That's the biggest things on this revision.
And there's some trees and stuff along there now, small pines, they are to remain undisturbed, is that correct, or?
In which area? Make sure, so there's a buffer along Wrightsboro Road. I don't believe there's much of a buffer at all. They're along here, that's gonna require the fence, 6-foot fence.
And a 50-foot buffer, right?
That's correct, and a 50-foot buffer, correct. Aesthetic side of the fence facing out towards Wrightsboro Road. The buffers have to be supplemented to meet the standard. It actually says to exceed our standards. They can't just meet our minimums, they're gonna go above and beyond. Make sure they plant stuff that has 6 foot in height within 2 growing seasons. The 7.5-foot setback is a carryover from the previous.
I think some of the buffers had gotten smaller on some of these or some other projects, and I just want to make sure that where it's supposed to be a 50-foot buffer, that the buffer will.
Right, I understand.
Is that correct?
That's right, so if you look here, there's a 50-foot buffer here, 50-foot buffer here.
But wasn't there some grading or where the street laid out on some past couple of projects where the buffers
So
went away,
so what you're referring to, the 50-foot buffer is a result of mass grading a site?
right?
So if you don't mass grade a site, you're not required to have a 50-foot buffer. So if you just put the streets and the storm system in, that 50-foot buffer is not required. If you're gonna mass grade it, it is. So
But
there have been,
this site was a mass graded site, is that correct?
this portion will be mass graded.
So a site can be half mass graded and half not mass graded?
It could, technically, it could. So if they were to come in here and just put the streets in, for example, and then after the streets are built and dedicated, they were to come back in and file individual lot plans for, all those lots, they could then grade those lots. Again, the buffer wouldn't apply there, but it could apply here.
But if you have a rezoning that says 50-foot undisturbed buffer
That's-
around the whole property,
That's locked in.
how are we gonna address that forward so that these 50-foot buffers that is approved with the original rezoning does not go away?
If the zoning conditions require the 50-foot buffer, it cannot go away no matter how they do it. If it's a matter of following the code versus a matter of following a zoning condition, that's two different things. If it's a zoning condition that the 50-foot buffer must stay,
I think mass grading in our code requires the 50-foot undisturbed
does.
buffer all the way around.
it does, if you mass grade. I guess what I'm saying is if you put a condition on here that you will have a 50-foot buffer, as stated here, whether they mass grade or not, 50-foot buffer based on this zoning condition. You're specifically stating the minimum buffer along Washington Road and Rolls Road shall be 50 feet. There's no getting around that, no matter how whether they mass grade or not, you're making that a condition.
That is what.
That is in here as a condition. Yes, sir.
Just
I'm sorry, I
making sure,
misunderstood you.
because we're getting away from it on some of the developments. I just want to bring it
I understand, yes, sir.
forward that how we need to address it to make sure that what the intent is continues to be the intent and not go away in the middle of a project.
Understand, yes, sir.
Any other questions? All in favor, raise your right hand. Carries.
No.
Opposed?
Yes,
One
sir.
opposed, sorry. All righty.
Item B3, file RZ 220306. I make a motion to approve the request for a rezoning from C2 to R4 for property located at tax map 024, parcel Z10D.
Second.
This is a parcel that does have 2 zonings on it, and we are removing the C2 and going straight R4. So this will be a residential property.
Questions? All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries.
Next item, B4, file RZ 220308. I make a motion to approve the request for a rezoning from C2 to M1 for a proposed self-storage facility for a portion of the property located at tax map 061-030L, subject to the conditions enumerated in the March 17th, 2022 Planning Commission.
Second.
So in this location, you're seeing, you're talking about this parcel here. Patrice, could you go back one slide? I'm sorry, forward one slide, not back. I apologize. This is a view of the site, so the portion that we're speaking of is here. As you can see on the aerial, this already has storage on that parcel. This parcel just has a split zoning on it, so they're looking to go to the zoning to allow them to build more storage units on their same parcel. Yeah, there'll be a variance that will follow this if you approve this.
Climate controlled and how tall? I don't think I saw that. Is it climate controlled?
I don't believe it is.
Are they,
Yeah,
they're,
Do you have any elevations on them?
We don't have elevations, but there are a list of conditions that you, the motion was made to approve. Brick, stone, stucco, cementous fiber, glass, combination thereof, so it's not gonna be a metal building. Have to have some,
but we don't know if it's single story or 2 or 3 stories, because we're getting a lot of 3, multiple story, all 1 story.
yeah, my understanding is climate controlled and 1 story. Now that, my understanding is 1 story, it may be 2, but
Applicant here?
we're pretty sure it's 1 story, similar to what they've built in the back. But obviously with a little more materials.
Condition at 1 story.
I'm looking, I don't see. You make a motion to continue?
I'll amend my motion to add a condition that this is a single-story facility.
I'll second it. I amend my second. Any other questions? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, motion carries.
Next item, Mr. Chair, is B5. I make a motion to approve the request for a variance to section 90-98, list of lot and structure requirements, 90-139, buffers and screening, 90-147, H3 use provisions for property located at the portion of the tax map 061, parcel 030L, to reduce building setbacks to 3 feet against property zoned C2 and 20 foot for property zoned S1, to waive the structural buffer requirements against property zoned S1 and require a 6-foot privacy fence only against the southern and eastern property lines.
Second. Running shy of seconds tonight.
he said a lot, so I'm gonna try to,
Didn't even know what, I couldn't follow it all.
said a lot, I'm gonna try my best to
There
explain.
you go.
So motion was to reduce building setbacks to 3 foot against properties on C2. So this is a C2 property here, this is a C2 property here. Your setback is down to 3, your
And on the south side.
or in here too. The TPS gas station is this. So that's a 3 foot minimum build line for those parts. 20 foot for the property zoned S1. So here's your S1 property, so it's a 20 foot off of that property. And then you are waiving the buffer, structural buffer requirements against S1. So this is this property here has got a large antenna on it. So you basically have a where the arrow is where your antenna sits out, and you have some guy wires that kind of poke down to the different locations. So this is a vegetated site. So you're eliminating the need to put a structural fence separating that vegetated area from this. And your 6-foot privacy fence is against the southern and eastern property lines. They will have to have a fence, southern and eastern side, so that you cannot see from the Waffle House. Did I get it all?
Yeah,
Hang out.
real
That was a
good
lot.
job.
You said a lot. I want to.
And the setback is 3 feet because of the size of the building. Is that why we did that?
You're reducing it mostly on that, for the north side. It's not so much for the other portion.
Where am I reducing it at? Could you circle that?
On the
It's
drive aisle.
C2,
Okay.
but everything is C2. Now, they're, based on their layout, they're not using that 3 foot, but your condition is to allow it to be reduced.
The 3 feet is for this portion right here.
Okay,
This is their internal service drive to the back, which serves the self-storage. So that 3 feet is really primarily for that portion alone.
the service drive is their property.
Is all their property.
Okay.
This is their property as well, but
Okay.
this will be future development.
But the way he said it, it was for all of the C2
Right.
that border it.
Yeah, it is, but in essence, it's really only for that. They're gonna have to have access all the way around the property, so it isn't impacting the other portions of the C2 properties.
There's not a service road anywhere else behind this that goes property.
Teresa, you go back to that overall shot of the site? There's not. So this is the area in question here. Figure all this stuff out. The area that we're talking about here. Look, this is a private road. There's a private road that's built. I apologize. The private road that's built here. The service road, potentially, if there was some sort of expansion, it could possibly be a service road that would come all the way into here to service this parcel without having to go out to Lewiston Road. But again, that's all private property. That would be something they would have to work out amongst themselves.
But the main thing is we have a 3-foot setback against his own property.
Yeah, it's within his internal.
It's all his parcel.
Yeah.
All right.
Is he gonna create a subdivision of this parcel here?
Okay.
It'd be its own parcel.
Any questions? Any more questions? All in favor, raise your right hand.
Item B6, Mr. Chair, file RZ 220309. I make a motion to approve the request for a major revision for property located at tax map 079, parcel 066, to add a building.
Second.
So this is the Augusta Prep campus, so this is an S1 zoning, which any kind of modification to their campus requires your approval. So they're looking to build a new building. I believe this is an engineering building, center of their campus. That circle that we have, close to that circle that's shown in the top picture.
Questions? Favor, raise your right hand. You have a question?
I was just gonna ask, since we've had other schools ask for addition to their internal campuses, and we asked questions about traffic. I assume that per state law, they also have their traffic.
They have right turn lanes, left turn lanes, and a traffic signal there.
So all the things that have been asked, they took care of it.
The traffic signal, the left turn lane, the right turn lane were there prior to our project. Our project will have those as well when we finish, so.
Road expansion.
But it was there prior to our road expansion.
I think we already voted. We can vote again. All in
No,
favor,
no,
raise
it's
your right
fine.
hand.
It was just a question.
Did you get everybody? Fantastic. I believe you have one more.
One more, I do, I'm sorry. Item B7, file VA 220303. I make a motion to approve the request for a variance to section 90-53, list of lot and structural requirements for the property located at tax map 077E, parcel 031, subject to the conditions enumerated in the March 17, 2022 Planning Commission report.
Second.
This gentleman was looking to put a carport on his property. When Riverwatch Parkway was built, they realigned Blue Ridge Drive. Some of his property was purchased. As you can see, his property line is not a straight line. So it's reduction of setback to 3 feet from the right-of-way. Allow this part, from Blue Ridge Drive right-of-way. Allow this carport, and it's 15 foot off of Halifax Court. Kind of this parcel is a product of a road project, looking the way it does.
Questions? All in favor, raise your right hand. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any legal matters
No legal matter.
that you're aware of? Very good. No request for review by committee. Public comments? I know we have a couple of executive session items that we can deal with right here and now, so I'll go to
Yes,
Vice
sir.
Chair.
I make a motion that the board not hear the grievance appeal of Giovanni Gonzalez Cortez and uphold his termination.
Second.
discussion. All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries. Vice Chairman Richardson.
Yes, sir. Make a motion, quick claim to Georgia Department of Transportation, all right-of-way along Washington Road, partway to give.
Second.
Why we want to do that?
So they can maintain it. When we widened the road, we had to go and acquire some additional properties for slopes, for utilities. So it's now time for us to deed all that was acquired to DOT for their ownership.
Question,
Yes, sir.
question.
Yes, sir. We are not giving up our easements.
That's what I was gonna, we're reserving easements. There's also a few little parcels that aren't on the main road that we're keeping in ownership fee simple, but yeah, all of our lines, utilities, everything else, we've reserved rights to it, if that's where you're going.
And cutting and whatever, because we do a fantastic job of.
We do cut it. We will continue to cut it. We did not sign a maintenance agreement, so we are not required to cut it. We do it because y'all have asked us to do it. If you sign a maintenance agreement with GDOT, you're responsible for signs, guardrail. You take on responsibility for a lot of stuff. By just doing it, we're maintaining it for aesthetic purposes, keeping the grass looking good.
Because we want to, not because we have to.
Correct.
I didn't want to see that come a twice a year.
Right. If we're lucky.
We're lucky.
Any other questions? All in favor, raise your right hand.
I make a motion to accept donations of Brandon Donson's parcel 07, Emmanuel Correz Dio, parcel 077G15, and William Park LLC, parcel 0. Permanent and temporary easements for wind sewer project.
Second.
Matt?
This is a rebuild in this one, aren't we? Wingate, this is a rebuild. Yeah, rebuild of existing sewer lines, replacing old outdated infrastructure. So continue to move forward on acquisition.
Any questions? All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries. I see our next meeting is April 19th. Only one more matter needs to be taken.
Mr. Chairman, I motion that we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, raise your right hand. We're adjourned.